do that. Someone confirm they can see my screen. Let's do the most said sentence of the year. Woohoo! All right. So Richard and I, we'll do some introductions in a second. Richard and I have been talking about doing a podcast for a while, and we keep putting it off and putting it off. And then we thought, hang on a minute, we could maybe combine the two cheekily, do a talk at B-Sides, see if this thing works, and then go from there. So without further ado, let me jump through. As Scott very eloquently said, this is the name of the pilot episode. This idea came about from a conversation over a few beverages recently, where as old people in security, there's still so much we don't know. If anything, I feel like I know less after all this time. But we've picked up a few little nuggets. We wanted to share them. And we know there's folks on that have maybe just getting started in their InfoSec careers, some old timers who are long in the tooth, jaded and bitter, like maybe we are sometimes, and everybody in between. So we've got some thoughts, we've got some learnings. We're definitely here to talk about some of our mistakes because that's the best way to learn. But to kick things off, just a reminder, first of all, if you do have questions, Slido is your friend. Ben is still faffing around trying to get comments turned off in some of the streams. They may or may not be on. We're not monitoring them very well at the moment. This is the place to go for questions. All right, let me do my best subject. I'm Sam Humphreys. I work at Exabeam. I've got two job titles. One of them is security strategist, and I'm also one of those marketing people that was talked about earlier in the Beer Farmers talk. And I was cringing a little bit, although I do know the difference between AI and machine learning. And can be quizzed about such things at a booth at an InfoSec conference near you when we're allowed to see people again. Doing this too long. I love the cloud. Nepophilia is not illegal. I can DJ at your wedding, your birthday, your DEF CON party, your funeral, whatever you would like, as long as social distancing applies. Love talking about sality. If anyone wants to have a sality conversation, I am your girl. And I write stuff and say things, and I'm on Twitter for following and blocking and reporting. Richard, talk to me, Goose.
Hey, well, this is it. Sam, we finally did it. We've been talking for how long? And we will reveal the Hump and Dick background in a minute. But my goodness, yeah. So I've been in this game, and it is a game as long as Sam, but kind of taking a different route. So I'm at Exabeam with Sam. So we're both, ripping up the roadways and leaving trails of fire here. And I do other things. So I've kind of been actively involved in kind of writing articles and educating the industry on overly complex subjects. They don't need to be complicated, but the industry seems to like to do that and kind of simplify it so that people can understand what on earth it's all about. And all that other stuff. So I've got a background. Some of it I don't talk about publicly because I can't, but which has given me some interesting insights to other sides that maybe we don't really see on a day-to-day basis, but we know is there. And yes, I do wax cars and paint fences. So I actually am a real ninja in life. I'm a 5th Dan black belt. Doesn't mean anything because I'm now fat and old and I'm losing my hair. But hey, when I was young, I managed to get there. And I do other stuff as well, like working in the ambulance service and trying to spice it up because I'm not busy enough. So yeah, that is me in a nutshell.
Wonderful. And we've talked about us. I know quite a lot about you because we present together a lot now. Like married through PowerPoint.
Husband, I know, aren't we?
But I want to introduce you to Keir Snelling. And actually, at this point, I'm going to drop the slides because we've got a bit of a thing with the stream going on where we can't see the videos when the slides are up. So stop sharing. Keir Snelling.
Without the COVID mask, thanks, Sam. I'd have prepared a slide if you needed me to. What am I? I'm Keir Snelling. I'm Sam's friend, first of all, so she's asked me to pilot this podcast as her first guest with her. But beyond that, I've got 22 years security experience, I think. I've worked in-house IT, being an IT generalist, then being a security specialist within a large organisation, and then I went vendor side. I did 10 years at McAfee, working in technical support, customer success. Left McAfee, went to Silence. I did that and now work at Zimperium doing customer success in the mobile space. Outside of that, if I turn my background off, there's a big shelf of whiskey behind me. I love collecting my single malt whiskies. Raising my family, West Ham United football supporter. Don't know how well that's going down in BSides Newcastle. Sorry for all the Rackhams. Yep, okay. And various other things along the way. I think this is a nice subject for a talk because, I've seen things from frontline where I worked in an organisation and there as an IT security implementer, if you like, and then I've worked at the vendor side where I've spoken to gazillions of different people working in security every single day, and sometimes you really don't realise what you actually picked up and learned all along the way. So quite excited to join the talk.
Excellent, thank you. All right, so I did a bit of terrible maths. I think we've been in technology for 63 years between us, which means we can retire. And thank you for coming to our talk. It's been amazing. I'm going to go do something better. 52 of those years have been in security. We are old. So I wanted to do a quick kind of go around the horn first of all. Richard, how did you get into this crazy world?
Oh my goodness. I have to be. Oh God. Okay.
Not getting arrested.
Yeah, it does involve the police, but I can't really go into too much detail. Let's just say a long time ago, I was involved with an interesting group of teenagers, and we did some interesting things. And I kind of like doing that stuff. So I thought, oh, let's do this more. Let's make a career out of it. And a couple of bullets dodged, and I managed to find my way into this industry. And it's what's kind of funny though, right, is I studied psychology at university, right? IT was always a thing I played with as a kid, from Atari ST 2600s right up to Commodore C64s and blah, 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 blah. So I always found these things fascinating. But I went into psychology, and then people said, well, why did you do that? Like, that has got nothing to do with IT or security. And I'm like, no, you are completely wrong. My psychology degree has probably helped me more than my technical skill sets in every vendor and partner and customer I've ever worked in. So I got into it, Sam, through ICQ chat groups, using CompuServe's launch portal back in the 90s. And yeah, it's kind of the rest is history. I think probably future podcasts will go more into detail about the kind of things I've done.
Are you Kevin Mitnick? Can we just get this clear now?
Oh, no. Come on. You and I have spoken about
it. Pull your head mask off.
Yeah, we've spoken about him. I'm definitely not that chap. No bloody way.
Can you whistle with DTMF tones?
Do you know what? You say that, you've done that, right? You've tried this.
No.
Oh, I'm telling there's people on this that have definitely tried that.
I know that. I can't whistle, so I'm screwed. Kib, how did you get into security, and why?
Yeah, so why? The first company I worked in IT was actually Pizza Hut UK. We had a really small team, about 20 people there looking after all of their IT infrastructure. I wasn't a security guy at all. I actually went in there from being a restaurant manager at Pizza Hut and joined their help desk as somebody who supposedly was competent at their electronic point of sale systems, just able to support other restaurant managers who maybe came from a different generation and weren't so computer literate. I was supposed to do that for 6 months as a secondment as part of like the management training scheme they put me on, and then I said, no, I don't really want to do anything else but IT now. Can I stay here, please, and not go back to the restaurant? And so I ended up there for 10 years. I moved obviously off of the help desk and picked up various different technical skills. I built most of the servers that they had in their data center at the time. Like one of the last projects I did with them was implementing all of the infrastructure to enable them to do their first ever take at online ordering. And because it was a small team, you had to be sort of focused on multiple different areas, and I learned security along the way. Probably badly looking back on it from what I know now, and some of the customers I look at when I work with people now today, go, oh, that was a strange decision, but it was a decision that worked for those guys, and that was all they knew because they didn't have better advice at the time. One of the things I picked up was how to administer Lotus Domino servers. They ran Lotus Domino and Notes as their email infrastructure, and I got quite good at doing that. And when I decided I wanted to move on and broaden my horizons in my career, McAfee were advertising for a Lotus Domino expert to support their new product that did basically anti-spam and anti-malware integration in Lotus Domino. So I thought, yeah, I'll have a go at that. And I applied for that and I got the job. And then I did 10 years at McAfee in various different roles. So that's how I got into security. And suddenly this whole world opened up in front of me. And I went, yeah, I've landed in the right place. This is what I was meant to do.
Awesome. My story's a little weirder. So I think the going from IT into security is quite common. I was a travel agent. And I booked travel for Network Associates that was their McAfee, and then they hired me to work on reception. And I ended up as a product manager for them, and I did incident response as well. But there was a bit of a journey in the middle. But for me, again, I did have a technical background from tinkering at home, and I think for most of us that end up, they're probably like listening on the stream, on the Zooms and various things. You start with one of those computery things at whatever age you got. Mine was first one was a Spectrum, and then a BBC Master. Old school. And I've not got them anymore, which is a shame because they're beautiful things. And now you can spend loads of money on buying a Spectrum Next. Yeah. And no, it's too modern now for me. So having some sort of techie background, a little bit of sales, don't hate me, but I ended up doing tech support for my customers that I'd sold to. So they were little companies. They'd ring me up and say, hey, we've got the box. So they won't get the CD out of the box, and they'd pop it in the drive, and I'd walk them through the install. And I decided that was more fun than having a quota. And I think I was right. So everything else along the way has kind of been, a lot of it's just been picked up, to be honest. I know we're going to talk about qualifications in a minute, and also it came up on the Beer Farmers talk. But I found it fascinating. That was my why. As viruses kind of kicked off in on a decent level around that time, back in the 1990s. Melissa had hit. Remember that caused absolute merry hell. And I was like, that seems really interesting. Not that I wanted to go and necessarily write them or get involved with, Richard's friends. But certainly it was interesting that someone could cause that much havoc. And that was kind of the bit that I caught hold of, and going to work at a company that could help organizations deal with that was really where I was at. So qualifications, travel qualifications clearly are the way forward. Richard, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, do you know what? This is, for me, I'm a big stickler for, and we talked about this earlier, the right qualifications. I mean, the first qualification I got back in, was it 1997 or 8? It's very late 90s. Anyway, was a Cisco Network Certified Network Associate, right, CCNA. And what that gave me was a generally phenomenally good understanding in networking, right? So the OSI layer model, that sort of stuff. And actually in network security where I ended up, the foundational knowledge you have is really, really important. And I know today we kind of get a lot of stuff thrown at us, and that we can go left, right, up, down, middle, and other dimensions. Get the basics, get the basic certifications, the ones that teach you the what, the why, and the hows. And then you start to branch out from there. Because trying to come in at the top level and starting to learn a complex coding language or complex security architectures, that's all well and good. But if you haven't got the basics down and you haven't got those certs, you're going to find it really hard to gain traction in the industry, and you're going to become stuck very quickly. So that's always the thing I've looked for interviewing candidates. Do you have the basics? And whether it's in security or whether it's in networking or whatever it is, coding, if you've got that, then I know I can build on it, and I can build on you. If you haven't, then it's a tall order. So that's my take on certifications in this short time frame we have.
So my BA Fares and Ticketing level 2. it's not a lot of help. No, I know. So also, I don't have a degree. Just going to put that out there right now. Keir.
Yeah, I listened to the Beer Farmers talking about this just now, and I've got somewhat different views, I guess. I've hired a lot of people in the last 20 years, some with every single certification you could ever imagine, and some with none. And I've always found that the experience trumps the certifications in every single case. And I heard that what we said before, where you can be okay with experience, but certifications and experience trumps that. And maybe it does. I haven't seen that in my experience. But what I have seen for certain is I've hired candidates on the basis of what appeared to be worthwhile experience and really good certifications, and found that they knew nothing. And the thing that I've learned to do when I'm hiring people now is to really focus on probing what their experience is. Have they actually done what they claim to do, and am I able to test against that? A lot of people claim a lot of technical skills, and you have to be able to assess them. I mentioned one of my favourite things is you see a lot of people put a whole raft of different TLAs that they're supposedly technically proficient at on their CVs or resumes, and I'll always pick on one of them and say, well, tell me about this then. You're claiming you've got that as your skill and that you're an expert in it. And a good one I always find is something like DHCP, which is a 4-letter, not a 3-letter. But how many people say, oh, yeah, I've got DHCP, I've got 10 years DHCP experience. And it's just a nothing. It's a throwaway on a CV. And then when you ask them and start really digging into it, you found that they ran the Microsoft Wizard once. And they set up DHCP. Maybe they did it on their home router. And it's so, okay, so you've lied about that. What else is there that is on your CV that I need to get into now and dig into? So I try and find that. But certs along the way, how many certs did I get? I got some basic certs like Lotus Domino, as I already mentioned. And that gave me a broad exposure to all assets of IT. I mean, at that team I worked in at the time, I did firewalls, routers, switches, servers, desktops. I was in Unix, I was in Windows. Big, broad background across a load of different technologies. And I probably built my career off of that because that was a wide amount of exposure. But I didn't gain that really through getting certificates. I just got it through, that was on-job experience for me. And that's what I've always found the most important when I'm hiring.
Sam, just to add to this, I think this is really important, right? I've hired a lot of people in my career. I'm not saying that egotistically. It's part of the course as you kind of grow up through the ranks. And I have made hiring decisions on passion and alone, right? So, if I'm interviewing somebody that may not have the certifications, and to the beer farmer's point, economics will sometimes dictate, and life shit happens, right? Mm-hmm. If they're a part of external groups, if they go to coding kind of meetups, if they're doing things outside of their kind of day-to-day life that shows they have passion, I'll take passion any day over experience to some extent, right? You have to have a little bit of knowledge, but I've found some of the best employment decisions I've made have been people that may not have had the experience when I hired them, but oh my God, did they have the passion that they do a load of stuff extracurricular, and they've turned out to be phenomenal in the security industry. So I'm just saying, if you're new to this, come across passionate and show your employer, the person that's going to hire you, that you love what you're doing and you're going to learn, you're going to put your head down, because that's what's missing from a lot of people. In my experience,
100%.
I'll tell you something I also learned as well, that people that get certifications, if they don't actually use the skills they learn in that cert, they very quickly lose them. So if you build yourself a little pick list and think I need all these for my career, go and get them, and never use those skills ever again. By the time you might find yourself needing them, they're already gone. They've dropped out your head. So pick carefully.
It's like learning a language, right? If you don't use it, it goes very quickly. Some of it might come back if you expose yourself to it again, but if you can't get your hands on it and do something. But I think one of the big things from like when we were young whippersnappers to now is, there's so much information free. And I know there's some of it's crap for sure, but you think, YouTube is a wonderful place. There is a load of places to go learn now that doesn't involve needing to shell out a ton of money with one of the big certification houses to kind of get your knowledge up. And there are a lot of helpful people out there. You think across the various social media channels, and I know I've dissed Twitter a few times today, but there are some really, really amazing people who, if you show passion and interest, will happily get on and help you. If we get back to the world of being able to meet up again, it's one of the things I love about B-Sides, right, is you have the workshops, you've got there's the villages going on, and then get something. I know DEF CON isn't accessible for everybody, but just the amount you can get hands on in those types of environments, makes such a difference. And we didn't have that when I was young. I want to move on just a little bit and talk about imposter syndrome, because I think this is something that comes up a lot, and I hear it from people who've been in the industry for years, and I hear especially folks who are kind of maybe dipping the toe in the water for doing talks or going out there to maybe do a workshop or something, and they've all of a sudden gone, hang on a minute, do I actually know anything? Am I really supposed to be here? And I deal with it still now. Richard, I'd like your take on that first. How do you handle that?
Well, hey, I'm with you, right? So I remember first doing, standing on stage and speaking about a subject. And again, to go back to the beer farmer's point, there's a lot that you don't know, and there's a lot that you do know, and it's a reciprocal thing in the industry. I'm very glad that Google did what they did, because it's been the most phenomenal learning tool that I've been accessing over the 20 years, and I still will. But the thing is, imposter syndrome doesn't need to be a psychological detriment, right? Because you're bringing you to the table, to the audience. And it doesn't matter where you work, what you do, but you are what people buy into, regardless of what you're talking about or trying to do. So remember that's what this is about. They want to hear your story. They want to feel your experiences. They want to resonate with what you have to say. And more often than not, remember this, and this is more true in vendor land than it is in customer land, is you will probably know a hell of a lot more about the subject that you've been asked to present than the audience will, right? And that's less true if we talk about B-Sides and DEF CON and things like this, because you tend to getting into a mix. But from my side of the fence in vendor security, I'm selling products and talking about products that nobody else knows about. So I've often found, don't get too stressed about what you're saying and what you're doing, because you should know more about this subject. But if you don't, be you, bring you across, let people buy into your experience and passion, because that's what they're going to remember. They're going to remember how you discussed the subject and kind of what empathy and sort of showcase you brought to it. So don't ever feel that you're an imposter. You are there because you deserved it, you earned it, and own the moment and bring you to the table. And that will never be a bad thing.
5 minutes, guys.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Dad. Keir, I'd love to get your thoughts on this.
At some point in my career, I remember somebody suggesting that I needed to consider what sort of persona I wanted to adopt as a professional persona. And I think that was probably the worst piece of advice anybody might have ever given me. And what I've learned, contrary to that, is authenticity is the most important thing. The idea of adopting a persona is basically saying, go to work and pretend to be somebody you're not, was what was being suggested to me. Portray yourself in a specific way, and I can't do that. I've really learned I can't do that. And this is, if I'm authentic, I'm speaking my mind, I'm caring about the people I work with, I'm admitting my own fallibility, and I'm asking questions, sometimes very direct questions, but asking questions all the time. And that's my truth. And if I live by that and I succeed living by that, I don't have to suffer from any kind of imposter syndrome, because I'm just being me. And if somebody likes me being me and wants to employ me and keep me employed, and then I'm not an imposter. I'm in the right place. If I'm pretending to do something, then there's always a risk someone's going to catch me out. So for me, my advice for everybody, if you're considering whether you're in the right place or whatever, be authentic, stick with it, be yourself, and let the good things happen.
I'm with you all the way. I'm not going to go, oh my God, I'm a woman in security, isn't it terrible? It's even worse for me. But I definitely feel, and I'm sure for the folks on the call who use the same bathroom as me, or let's not get into a whole thing about D&I right now because we've only got 2 minutes. But there have been times I remember walking to my first meeting with a bunch of customers, and there were 20 technical people in the room from a big bank, and all of them were guys, and I bricked it. I was like, and they're all staring at me. We're in this tiny little room, and we got talking, and all of a sudden it clicked in my head that, yeah, actually I was supposed to be there, and I did know more than everybody else in that room because I was coming to meet with them, and they had questions for me. And it was this almost glowing feeling inside. And it was maybe I was riding some adrenaline from somewhere when I was actually just slightly insane at the time, but it helped for sure. But I will say this, even now when I do talks on stage, I still get the fear every single time before going on stage. But I've learned to kind of love it now. It's one of those like moments of excitement as opposed to being like, I need to run away and hide. And then maybe not do this, maybe get a new career, maybe go back to travel. I was really good at tickets. So I think, yeah, the having faith in the fact you're supposed to be there is easy to say, but you have to just keep telling yourself, because it's true. If someone's asked you to come and do a talk, or, you know, you've put a talk into a conference and it's been selected, you've been selected on that merit. Okay, own it, make it yours, right? And if someone starts interrupting you, apart from Scott saying you've got 5 minutes, during your talk, especially if it's an in-person thing, generally they're being a dick, right? So it's on them, they're a dick. You should never interrupt someone during the talk. We are nearly at time. So I know we have our 3 takeaways, which I did have on a slide, but I've decided slides are for other people. So this is what we wrote down yesterday, and I think this is still true. Number 1, don't bullshit on your CV, right? Because you'll get found out. Keir will ask you questions about DHCP and it will all fall down around you. It's much better to say what you can do. And there are a bunch of folks who can help you with your CVs in this industry as well. So don't think that you have to just put, I don't know, I just like a job. Don't think you have to know everything. Be willing to learn, ask questions, and ultimately trust in why you're there, because you're supposed to be. Guys, thank you for being part of this today. We are dead on at time. I think it's either a break or Zoom Opinions coming up. Scott, can you come back on and do some emceeing, some emceeing the end of my own talk?
Absolutely. That was really, really good. It was nice to actually find some counterpoints to some stuff we were talking about, and it ties in really nicely to what we spoke about, which is disagreement is fine. You know, having different opinions is absolutely fine, and that is great. We didn't get many questions. We got one person saying, on experience over certs, how would you get through the door on application with desirable fields specifying certs, etc. HR would bin your application.
Networking.
Yeah, it does help. I've bypassed hiring people for a bunch of friends, if they were friends or networking people, like some of my friends, people I just know of, because I hear you, right? That first round can be really hard to get through because they're looking for keywords. And, you know, if they can't see you have had experience of this exact job title before, they'll be like, oh, no, they can't do it. And as we know, that's not always the case. There's so much that's transferable. So that can really help. Yeah, use your networks.
Yeah, and it's almost inexcusable not to be able to network now. I hate to put the pressure on people, but there is Twitter. The vast majority of people are extremely friendly in the industry. They will absolutely speak to you. And do you know what? If someone's going to be a dick to you on Twitter, it's probably not the sort of person you would want to work for or work with. Like that's been my advice to students.